I lied to avoid my boyfriend's grandma's funeral and spent the day with my new lover, but my friend told him everything. Now he's dating another girl. He's so awful for abandoning me while I was being dumped by my lover. You know, when you're young, you think you can play with everything, even the feelings of someone who truly loved you. I did it. I lied, I cheated, and I lost a man with whom I could have had something stable, beautiful, lasting. 6 months have passed since all that, but I feel like these months I've matured a lot and I realize what I lost. I'm Merlina, I'm 24 years old, and I was with Armando for 4 years. He always placed a lot of importance on family and integration. However, I felt out of place, as if I were acting. The problem started the day his grandmother passed away. I remember he texted me early with a brief message, "My grandma died." I went to his house that afternoon, I hugged him. I tried to sound sad, but in reality, all I could think about was how uncomfortable those situations make me. At that time, I had met his grandmother and felt a little sorry for her, but at that moment I had other priorities. I stayed with him for a while and then left. The next day, he told me the time of the funeral, expecting me to accompany him. Honestly, I don't like wakes. They are too depressing. I could have gone. I had no obligations preventing me, but I didn't want to. I felt I would be bored, standing in the middle of a somber environment not knowing what to say. So I lied to him. I told him I had a final project at university, that the group was going to meet to practice the presentation and that I couldn't miss it. He looked at me with that expression that mixed disappointment and resignation. He didn't argue, he just nodded and told me he understood. But in his eyes, I saw something extinguish. As soon as I left, I felt a silly relief. I thought, that's it wasn't that big a deal. But deep down, I knew I had just done something unforgivable. The real plan was different. I had arranged to go out with my friends that afternoon. They would be my alibi. I told them that if Armando asked, they should say we were working on the project. Everyone agreed, laughing as if it were a teenage prank. But behind that outing was someone else, Roberto, the most popular guy in the faculty, who for me had left his womanizing days to have something serious with me. He said he was tired of empty women, that I was different. And I, foolishly, believed I was special. We had started seeing each other secretly weeks before, midnight messages, quick coffees between classes, car rides through areas where no one knew us. He told me he only thought of me, that he loved me, that he would leave everything to be with me. And I listened, knowing he was lying, but enjoying every word. That day, while Armando was burying his grandmother, I was trying on a dress in front of the mirror, asking my friends if I looked good to see Roberto. I remember it and it sickens me, but at that moment I felt desired, indestructible. We went to eat, then for a walk along the Costanera. He took my hand and told me he no longer wanted to hide. He promised that soon we would talk openly, that he didn't care if people criticized us. I nodded without thinking about the disaster I was building. That night I arrived home tired and happy. Armando didn't text or call me. I thought he was upset, that he needed time, and I went to sleep peacefully. A few days passed. I kept acting as if nothing had happened, answering with an "everything's fine" every time he asked how I was. But then one of my friends, Carla, started acting strange. Carla was the most calm, quotation marks, of the group. The one who never got into trouble, the one who always gave advice. Sometimes her air of superiority bothered me. She told me that sooner or later, everything comes out. I replied that it was envy, that not everyone could have someone like Roberto after them. One afternoon, Carla wrote me a message that I still have engraved. "You didn't tell me that what you were avoiding was Armando's grandmother's funeral. He doesn't deserve this." I asked her what she meant, but she didn't answer. A few hours later, Armando called me. His voice was dry. He asked me to meet in person. When I arrived, I already knew something was wrong. He asked me if I had had an exam that day. Without hesitation, I told him yes, that it had gone well. Then he took out his phone and showed me a photo. I was in the photo, smiling in a restaurant with my friends and Roberto behind me. I was speechless. He didn't yell, he just said, "It wasn't that you didn't want to go to the funeral, Merlina, it's that you already had someone else." And at that instant, I knew I had lost everything. I tried to defend myself like an idiot. I said it wasn't what it seemed, that Carla exaggerated, that he had no right to interfere. But Armando was no longer listening to me. He told me I had been a complete disappointment, that he felt he had wasted 4 years of his life, that he never wanted to see me again. He said things that hurt, not for what they meant, but for what they confirmed, that nothing was left of what we were. In my pride, I didn't want to stay silent. I replied that it was fine, that if I disappointed him so much, then we should break up and that he shouldn't look for me again. I turned around and left, convinced that I had done the right thing. Inside, a small voice told me that I had just been left alone, but I silenced it. The following days I spent with Roberto. I wanted to distract myself, forget about Armando, fill the void with something new. Roberto greeted me with a smile, hugged me, and told me that now we could finally see each other without hiding. It seemed like a good start. At first, I felt liberated. I thought, that's it, it was meant to happen. I kept telling myself that Armando and I had broken up a long time ago, that his family world and mine didn't fit. But even though I didn't say it, something inside me felt out of place. My friends congratulated me on my new beginning with Roberto. They said that I had finally left behind a boring relationship, that now I looked happy, that this was my moment. I liked the attention, the glances, feeling like the envy of the group. With Carla, things had calmed down. I knew it had been her who told Armando everything, but nothing else happened. I didn't confront her or get more annoyed with her. I simply pretended I didn't care. Sometimes I thought that her betrayal hadn't had major consequences, only the breakup with Armando. But now I had Roberto, and that, in my head, was an upgrade. He was handsome, had a personality that filled any place he entered. Wherever he was, everyone looked at him, and next to him, I felt special. I felt that what I lacked before I now had in abundance, but the illusion didn't last long. A few days after officially starting, Roberto began to change. He no longer texted me as much or sought me out with the same insistence. He said he was busy, that he had exams, that he couldn't see me. At first, I believed him, but then I started to notice details that didn't fit. He posted photos with my friends, group outings to which I wasn't invited. And when I asked him, he would laugh and say, "Don't be so intense." I don't know when I started to feel replaced, but the final blow came when an acquaintance told me what everyone already knew except me. Roberto had slept with several of my friends, all of them, including Carla, the one who acted so proper, the one who had given me moral lessons while destroying my previous relationship, the big hypocrite, the little saint. When it was confirmed, I felt my face burn. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that after everything that had happened, I ended up as the group's joke. I confronted him. I remember his face perfectly. He was calm, almost bored. I asked him if it was true, and without blinking he told me, "I thought you knew how things were. That's why I have this reputation." I was speechless. I tried to answer, but he kept talking as if nothing. "You have the title of girlfriend, Merlina. They were just for fun. Don't be melodramatic." I told him he was an idiot, that he had deceived me. And he just smiled. "If you don't like it, we break up. Nobody forces you to stay." At that moment I understood that I meant nothing to him, that I was just one more on his list, that this supposed love he promised me was a cheap disguise. And the worst thing was that despite everything, I didn't leave him. I didn't want to admit that I had made a mistake. I didn't want people to say that I had been used. So I stayed. I smiled, I pretended everything was fine. When my friends talked about him, I did too. I joined in the jokes, even though inside I felt dead. I don't know what was worse, losing Armando for an idiot or realizing that my friends knew everything and accepted it. With Carla, I tried to keep up appearances. I couldn't yell what I thought, even though I wanted to. She, with her calm smile, told me that things happen for a reason, that I shouldn't take it so seriously, that life goes on. I don't know if she said it out of cruelty or pleasure, but every word she said pierced me. At first I was angry, then I simply stopped feeling. It was easier to numb myself than to face reality. Roberto remained the same with everyone except me. In public he was charming, in private, distant. He talked to me little, touched me less, and when he did it was mechanical, without emotion, as if I were just another accessory in his life. And meanwhile, I couldn't stop thinking about Armando. It was something I couldn't control. I saw him everywhere. Sometimes, when I was distracted, I thought I saw him pass in front of me. I felt the impulse to call him, but when I blinked he disappeared. One time I dreamed that we were at his house making coffee, as always. I woke up with a mixture of guilt and relief. I didn't know if I wanted to turn back time or simply forget him. I started to wonder if I ever truly loved him, and the answer hurt more than any infidelity. Yes, I loved him. But Roberto's attentions blinded me. He made me believe that I was special, that I had managed to take away his womanizing side, but it was all just a facade. After the scandal with my friends, everything became empty. I saw them and felt disgusted. I thought about how they had laughed with me knowing what they were doing behind my back. One day, when I confronted them, they looked at each other and Carla was the first to speak. "Merlina, don't be self-conscious. It's over. We're still friends." Friends. That word made my stomach churn. I realized that I never had true friends. All of them were vipers. And yet, I stayed there pretending that everything was fine, because somehow I believed I deserved it, that after betraying Armando, this was my punishment. And you know what was the saddest thing of all? That even in the midst of that disaster, I still felt grateful that Roberto didn't leave me, as if staying by his side, even as an adornment, was a prize. But I couldn't stop thinking that I had destroyed something good for someone who didn't even consider me a person. Was it really worth it? Of course not. Update 1. I can't get over Armando. Weeks have passed since I broke up with Roberto. I was fed up with him, with the way he treated me, with his lies, with his fake laughs. I no longer cared what people would say, or what my friends thought, or what they said about me at university. But there is something that does matter to me, Armando. The problem is that Armando is now dating a girl I know, and I can't help but think he's doing it to provoke me. Her name is Jimena, a nerdy, four-eyed, very skinny girl. In a way, I never liked her. Not because she did anything to me, but because her simple presence made me uncomfortable. I don't know how to explain it, but every time I saw her, she irritated me. Besides, I say it without hypocrisy, that girl has nothing attractive about her. She's skinny, almost bony. It seems like if you blow on her, she'll break. It may sound superficial, but come on, you're not going to tell me that men don't like a pretty, normal girl with some flesh, something to hug. I can't wrap my head around how someone like Armando could be interested in her. Sometimes I think he does it just to annoy me, because he knows perfectly well that I never liked Jimena. Maybe he wants to make me angry or make me feel replaced. And if I think about it, when someone wants to make you jealous, doesn't that mean they still care about you? That idea obsessed me. I thought that maybe Armando still loved me, even if he didn't admit it, that he was hurt, and that's why he sought refuge in someone like her, that if I did something, if I showed that there was still a connection between us, I could get him back. I know that what happened at his grandmother's funeral was a horrible, unforgivable mistake, I know, but people change, don't they? We learn from our mistakes. I learned and I was willing to show him that I was no longer the same, but first I had to get rid of her. Jimena was the obstacle. And although I'm ashamed to say it, I convinced myself that it was fair, that if I had lost him due to a mistake, it made no sense for someone so mediocre to have him without having done anything to earn him. I thought, that girl is no different from the others. She would surely melt if someone like Roberto showed her attention. After all, Roberto was still the most popular guy. A little flirting, a smile, and she would fall. And if that happened, I would be there to discover them and tell Armando. That way he would see who the real hypocrite was. The plan seemed simple. I called Roberto. Our relationship had ended badly, with shouting and humiliation, but even so, I knew he wouldn't resist a proposal if money was involved. I told him I wanted to ask him a favor, that it was something quick, that I needed him to approach a girl, to win her over, to make her fall. He listened with that mocking tone he always had. A competition between girls, Merlina? I thought you had already gotten over that, he said. I replied that it wasn't a game, that I would pay him well. There was a silence, and in the end he accepted. Business is business, he said. The plan was simple. Roberto would approach Jimena at the university. He would ask her out, compliment her, make her feel special. If she took the bait, I would take care of the rest. The idea was to find the right moment to surprise them in a compromising situation and tell Armando. I knew it was crazy, but at that moment it seemed like a way to balance the scales. If Armando saw that Jimena wasn't so perfect, maybe he would remember what we had. Maybe he could forgive me. Roberto did his part. He sent me messages telling me how everything was progressing. At first, it seemed like she wasn't paying him much attention, but he insisted as he usually did with all of them. I have her on the verge, he told me one day. Just give me time. I waited patiently, imagining how everything would fall into place. I saw myself appearing at the right moment, Armando, discovering the truth, regretting having left me. I kept telling myself that everything was going to turn out well, but it didn't. One day, Roberto stopped answering my messages. Hours passed, then days. I thought he was playing a trick, so I called him. He didn't answer until one afternoon he texted me furiously, "Stupid girl." As soon as I tried to kiss her, she beat me up. I couldn't believe it. At first I thought it was a joke, but it wasn't. He sent me a photo with a bruise on his face and told me that Jimena practiced martial arts and that as soon as he tried to get fresh, she confronted him, yelled at him, pushed him, and left him lying on the ground in front of several people. Not only had he failed, but now everyone was talking about it. Roberto, the womanizer, humiliated by a nerd girl. I tried to talk to Armando, but he ignored me. He only showed indifference. His gaze was so cold. That's when I understood that there was nothing left. It wasn't worth continuing with the plan now. Roberto was an empty man, a reflection of my own insecurities. My friends, the ones I laughed with, were snakes, and I, out of pride, was left alone in the midst of it all, believing it was a just punishment. I learned that a lie is not erased by asking for forgiveness, or with good intentions, or with tears. It is erased when you stop being the same person who told it. I have matured. I swear it. I no longer seek to blame anyone. I just wish I had the opportunity to show Armando that I am no longer that girl who invented an exam to avoid a funeral. Sometimes I think I still have a chance. That if he looked at me again, he could see beyond my mistakes. He could see who I am now. He can't simply erase 4 years of a relationship, for years of memories, of moments, of plans. No one can do it so easily. And yet, he did. That's what hurts me. Not only that he left me, but the speed with which he moved on. Only a few months passed, and he was already with the nerd. It seems too soon to me. I find it hard not to think that perhaps there was already something between them before we broke up. I don't want to believe it. But what if it was like that? What if while I was distracted with Roberto, he was already finding solace in her? I keep telling myself that I shouldn't think about that it doesn't make sense, that it wouldn't change anything, but every time I see them together, every time I hear his name, my chest burns. I don't know if it's jealousy, anger, or sadness. I just know that I can't let him go. Deep down, I know that this has already become an obsession. I want him all to myself. I can't stand the idea of someone else having him. It's selfish, I know, but I can't help it. And yet, I try to convince myself that I'm different, that if he gave me a chance, everything would be different, that I wouldn't make the same mistakes, that this time I would be a better partner, more attentive, more real. But there's something in me that tells me that won't happen, that even though I've changed, I no longer have a way to prove it. That he's not coming back, that his story with me is over, and that insisting would be clinging to a ghost. I'm so confused. Part of me wants to forget him, erase his name, never mention him again. But another part wants to run to him, explain everything, ask him to look at me, to listen to me, to believe me. I don't know which version of me will win. I just know that I continue walking with that mixture of guilt and hope that doesn't let me rest. Maybe time will heal it, or maybe not. Maybe Armando will continue with her, happy, and I'll be left waiting for an opportunity that will never come. But if I ever cross paths with him, if he ever looks at me again, even for a second, I want him to see that in my eyes, to understand that I am no longer the same, even if it's too late to start over.